Hello friends, this is Veer and you are watching our Law School. Today I am again here with another video, and in this video I will be discussing about the history of the Constitution of India. So let's go for it. So guys, in order to understand the history of the Indian Constitution, we have a time period, and the time period is from 1600 to 1947. Firstly, we will divide this time period into two parts. The first one is of company rule and the second one is of the crown rule. Company rule is from 1600 to 1857 and the crown rule is from 1857 to 1947. And then we will discuss all the Essentials Act made during this time period. In 1600, the Britishers came in India with the motive of trade and business. They were given the exclusive rights of trade by the Queen Elizabeth. And when they came to India, they found that there were few competitors to them in terms of business and trade. Firstly, they found a new way to defeat those competitors, so that they persuaded Mughal emperors to issue a farman for them. A farman is basically a royal order for the trade permission. They established East India Company forcefully and defeated all their competitors. In the very beginning, the affairs of East India Company was not well. That's why they brought an act, that is Regulating Act 1773. It was the first step taken by the British government to control and regulate the affairs of the East India Company. So let's talk about the main features of this act. The first feature of this act was it designated the Governor of Bengal as the Governor General of Bengal and created an executive council of 4 members to assist him. And remember, the first Governor General of Bengal was Warren Hastings. It made the Governor of Madras and Bombay presidencies subordinate to Governor General of Bengal. But before this, these 3 presidencies were independent to each other. It provided for the establishment of Supreme Court of Calcutta in 1774, comprising 1 Chief Justice and 3 other judges. It prohibited the official servants of the company to engage in any private trade or accepting bribes and presents from the natives. It strengthened the control of British government over the company by requiring the Court of Directors, which is the governing body of the company, and to report on its revenue, civil and military affairs in India. After this act, there were few mistakes and defects in this particular act. That's why they brought a new act, that is Act of Settlement 1781. Later on, gradually, the East India Company was interfering in the political function of the Bengal. It created a mismatch between the commercial function and the political function of the company. That's why they brought a new act, that is Pitt's India Act 1784. Why did they call it Pitt's India Act? Because Pitt was the Prime Minister of England in 1784. Let's talk about the main feature of this act. The first feature of this act was it distinguished between the commercial function and the political function of this company, because it was not easy to handle both of the function collectively. But to govern them separately, they created a body, that is Board of Control, to manage the political affairs of the company. On the other hand, Court of Directors were there to manage the commercial function of this company. Thus, it established a dual form of government. It empowered the Board of Control to supervise and direct all the operations of civil and military government of revenues of the British possession of India. After this act, Britishers were thinking to rule over India. They were finding a way to do so. But there were few more reasons. I will not go deep in the history, because you know in deep history becomes a never-ending subject. So let's talk about Charter Act 1833. This act was brought mainly to centralize the company rule in the British India. It designated the Governor General of Bengal as the Governor General of India. Being from the supreme authority, all the civil and military powers were vested in him. Due to this, for the first time, they can possess the entire territory of India. And remember, the first Governor General of India was Lord William Bentinck. It deprived the Governor of Bombay and Madras to their legislative powers, because all the exclusive legislative powers were given to the Governor General of India. And there is a key point. All the law, all the rule made under the previous acts were known as regulations, but from this act, all the law and rules were known as the Act of Parliament. As a result, it ended the activities of the East India Company as a commercial body, because after that, it became a pure administrative body. Later on, this act attempted to introduce an open system of competition for the selection of civil servants, and they stated that Indians should not be debarred from holding any place, office and employment under this company. But later on, this act was negated after the opposition from the Court of Directors. After this act, they brought a new act, that was Charter Act of 1853. This was the last of the series of the Charter Act from 1793 to 1853. Let's talk about the main feature of this act. It, for the first time, separated executive and legislative function of Governor General's Council and established a new Governor General's Council, which was known as the Indian Legislative Council. And this legislative wing of council functioned as the mini parliament, adopting the same procedure as the British Parliament. Thus, this legislation for the first time treated as the special function of the government. Then, it introduced an open system of competition for the requirement or selection of civil servants. It was thrown to Indians also. Accordingly, the Committee on Indian Civil Services, which is known as Macaulay Committee, was appointed in 1854. It extended the company rule and powered it to retain the possession of Indian territory, but it was not for any particular time. It means that the parliament was powered to terminate the company rule at any time. It, for the first time, introduced the local representation in the Indian Legislative Council of the 6 new members of the Governor General's Council, in which 4 members were appointed from Madras, Bombay, Bengal and Agra. So, in the company rule, these were 5 essential acts. This was the end of the company rule, so please stay tuned for the crown rule. And this is all for today. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, please give a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. If you do have any query, please let me know in the comment section and please share it to all the friends. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.